Malaysia, 370, climb flight level 350. Malaysian Airlines. Flight level 350, Malaysia 370. The airline speaks again, and the captain says, Malaysia 370, maintaining level 350. The tower says, Malaysia 370. 370, maintaining level 350. The pilot responds. The tower, word anybody has ever heard from that flight from 2014 to today. That is it. They said that they found pieces of the plane, but they have yet to find the whole plane, and there's new individuals coming up with new thoughts about where the plane is and where they can find it. But at approximately 1:19 a.m. on the 8th, or by this time, the 9th of March, 2014, last words were good night, Malaysian 370. Now, to have a family member or close loved one die. It's another thing when you can't bury them. These people, it appears that this, not 747, not 757, in this gigantic 777 somehow disappears and nobody could find it. And I sat back and I thought about this message, and I thought about the people, 139 passengers. I'm talking about the parents of those passengers. I'm talking about the brothers and sisters of those passengers. I'm talking about the nieces and nephews of those passengers. I'm talking about the pastors of those passengers. I'm talking about the wives and husbands of those passengers. And all I could imagine that's going through their mind was one thing. Has anybody heard from Malaysia 370? And I'm sure after the hours went by and 6:30 a.m. comes up and there's no plane. 7:30, no plane in sight. 8:30, and maybe there were people already collect husband, their wife, their children, and they were there waiting to collect them. And the king asked him secretly in his house and said, is there any word from the Lord? His house and said, and Jeremiah said, there is. Is there any word? For said he, Lord? Thou shalt be delivered into the hand of the king. And Jeremiah said, there is. Babylon. Is there any word? If you're like me, for said he, Lord? Thou shalt be delivered into the hand of the king. And Jeremiah said, there is. Babylon. You look at a person and maybe the way that they're dressed, maybe the way that their facial expression is, maybe the color of their skin. But for whatever reason, you stand back and you want to approach them and share the gospel with them. Because remember, to hand them a gospel tract or invite them to church and you say to yourself, they're not going to read this gospel tract. And we are judging that person based on how they look. And we're saying to ourselves, they don't want to hear a word from the Lord. So I want you to think now, think about the people that you saw today. As I think about the people that I saw today. Think about the people you saw today. Think about the breakfast lady. Oh, she is be playing gospel in the background. She don't need a word from the Lord. Think about the security guard at your office who always opens the door for you and seems to be a nice guy, but he doesn't say much. And you always wanted to invite him to church. You say, oh, well, this fella definitely, he don't want to hear nothing from the word of the Lord. And we make a huge mistake in looking at a person externally and trying to calculate what's happening internally. Because as we read verse 17, it may not mean much to you now because we just read it plain, but I think it's going to have a better context when we read it from verse 1. So let's look at verse number 1. It says in Jeremiah chapter 37, and King Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, or Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, reigned instead of Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, made king in the land of Judah. So let's get the context here, that this is, Zedekiah is the king. Okay, so who is Zedekiah? Thank you, class. So Zedekiah is the king. Now, what is the characteristic of this king? It says in verse number 2, but neither he nor his servants nor the people of the land did hearken unto the words of the Lord, which he spake by the prophet Jeremiah. Whoa, hold on now. We start, Jeremiah has to say. In Jeremiah chapter 37, go with me over to 2 Kings chapter 24. Because I want you to see the character of this king. 2 Kings chapter 24. In 2 Kings chapter 24, notice what it says in verse 17. It says, and the king of Babylon made Mattaniah his father's brother king in his stead, and changed his name to who? Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign.